Angel Ormston was born in 1975 in Mentor-on-the-Lake, a quiet suburb of Ohio, USA. This area has about 7,000 residents, and everyone knows each other. Children from local families often get along and grow up together. Life here is very simple and similar. The local high school serves as the main place of learning for most young people in town. Angel is a friendly and cheerful girl. She particularly enjoys walking around the area with her friends and often drives around with loud music. Local teenagers often gathered at a large shopping mall in a nearby, bigger city, which featured restaurants, a movie theater, and various stores. It made sense that Angel would find a part-time job there. In the summer of 1992, she started working at a fast food restaurant as she prepared for her senior year of high school. This job not only allowed her to earn some pocket money but also helped her save up for college. Her daily routine was consistent. She worked in the mornings and spent time with friends afterward. On the evening of July 31, 1992, 17-year-old Angel planned to go to her restaurant to pick up her paycheck and do some shopping. She promised her mother, Jackie, she would be home before the mall closed. Initially, her mother was not concerned and went to bed, assuming she was out with friends. The next morning, she woke up to find Angel missing from her room. Despite this, she didn't worry too much because it was common for her daughter to stay over at friends' houses, especially on weekends and holidays, so she pushed her uneasy thoughts aside. In this close-knit community, crime was rare, and young people often visited each other without worry. However, Angel, a high school student, didn't always keep her mother informed, which led to concerns. Her mother didn't want to restrict Angel too much, allowing her daughter considerable freedom that matched her independent spirit. Angel's upbringing was relaxed. Her mother was adaptable and aimed to maintain a harmonious environment. Meanwhile, her father was often away as a long-distance truck driver. Despite the lack of strict rules or curfews in the Angel household, unsettling thoughts began to creep into Jackie's mind. Angel was missing all Saturday, and when her mother woke up on Sunday to find she still hadn't returned home, worries began to set in. She called families where Angel could stay, and her brother also went to the shopping center where she worked. Upon arriving at the parking lot, Angel's brother noticed her Honda Civic, which heightened his concern. He hoped to find Angel inside but instead found her purse, comb, and other personal items left on the driver's seat, indicating she might have vanished. He checked the burger joint where she worked but learned she hadn't shown up for a couple of days. Alarmed, he contacted Jackie, their mother, who hurried to the shopping center to retrieve Angel's car and uncover the truth while pushing aside her fears. Initially, she hoped it was just a series of coincidences. Angel often went out at night with her best friend, Stacy. That day, Stacy's family could not be reached, which gave Jackie some peace of mind. Nonetheless, anxiety grew as Jackie drove around the mall looking for Angel, but she found no trace of her daughter. Friends who did manage to contact her hadn't seen Angel since Friday. By 8 p.m., Jackie still couldn't reach Angel, deepening her worry. Jackie finally decided to report her daughter Angel as missing by going to the police. Although Angel was last seen on July 31st, Jackie did not visit the station until August 2nd. This delay raised suspicions among the police, but Jackie explained that she believed she needed to wait 48 hours before reporting someone missing. Jackie provided detailed information about Angel, including her life and relationships. Jackie asserted that, up until the very last moment, she was not worried that anything serious had happened to Angel. On the morning of Monday, August 2nd, Jackie managed to reach Stacy, who confirmed Jackie's fears. Stacy had spent the entire weekend at her sister's house and hadn't seen Angel. She was shocked to learn that her friend had been missing for over 2 days. Stacy tried to contact some mutual friends, but none had seen Angel. Following this, Jackie provided the police with new information, prompting them to initiate an active search for Angel. The police first examined Angel's car, which showed no signs of a struggle. The car was in normal condition, with no blood, signs of theft, or forced entry. The officers believed Angel may have left the car willingly. Given her age, they suggested she could have run away, but Jackie rejected this idea, citing their good relationship. Angel was not involved with banned substances and had always remained calm during her teenage years. Despite her independent nature, she was not the type to run away. In fact, she had been making future plans, including furthering her education at university. Detectives worked extensively to investigate Angel's disappearance. They suspected she might have been kidnapped from the car and collected many fingerprints at the scene. Although there were numerous prints, all belonged to family and close friends. Despite this, every individual had to be investigated to clear them as suspects since there were no other leads. The investigation began with Angel's father, a truck driver, but he was quickly ruled out because he had a verified alibi. He was in another state when his daughter went missing. Next, detectives looked into Angel's mother, Jackie. Her refusal to take a polygraph test raised significant suspicion and drew the attention of the investigators. They noted her delay in contacting the police and her decision to take Angel's car from the parking lot soon after learning about the disappearance, which further fueled suspicions. The police lacked the authority to compel her to take a polygraph test, and there was no direct evidence against her. As a result, the investigation continued with Jackie being the primary suspect. Jackie claimed that on the evening when Angel left home, she intended to go to a burger place. However, interviews with local staff revealed that Angel never arrived to pick up her paycheck that day. Investigators seized the opportunity to gather more information from Angel's colleagues. They quickly eliminated Jackie from the list of suspects due to Angel's good relationship with her family. However, they developed several other theories, including a suspicious connection to a former manager known for inappropriate behavior toward female employees. Investigators suspected that the former manager had been spying on female staff while they changed into their work uniforms. Later, he was fired for a harassment incident. Several female employees reported that this manager had touched them inappropriately. When the police investigated him, they discovered he had a criminal record for inappropriate behavior with minors, making him the main suspect. Other women also mentioned that he frequently focused on Angel, often looking for chances to be alone with her in the kitchen and making inappropriate comments. When this was discovered, the detectives were so focused on the case that they overlooked Jackie. The former manager was quickly located and interviewed, but he denied any involvement in Angel's disappearance. He said that she hasn't seen him since they worked together. He claimed that, on the day she went missing, he was far from his hometown and provided a timesheet showing that he was at another location of the fast food chain that day. Despite this evidence, detectives did not exclude him as a suspect and continued to question everyone at the restaurant, including both staff and management. Through their investigation, they uncovered a secret that Angel had kept from her family. She had been fired for consistently being late. While she was indeed heading to the restaurant to collect her final paycheck, this revelation did not provide any new leads regarding her disappearance. Gradually, all of Angel's co-workers were ruled out as suspects because they had alibis. Neither Angel's former manager nor her mother was considered a viable suspect in the case, making it difficult for the police to conduct their investigation. Communication with Angel's closest friends did not reveal any new information. Everyone was shocked at the idea that someone in her circle might wish her harm. She was gentle, trusting, and usually avoided conflict. However, her trusting nature made her vulnerable to someone who might manipulate her into a dangerous situation. After a long period without contact, fears grew that Angel had died. She hadn't reached out to anyone, appeared in public, or used any payment methods. Given these circumstances, the police decided to re-examine the people closest to her, as those responsible for such crimes are often found among acquaintances. The focus shifted to her best friend, Stacy. Although they had spoken to her briefly before, this time the interview lasted over 4 hours. From the start, Stacy expressed a strong willingness to help but firmly denied any involvement. She was cleared as a suspect when she provided a confirmed alibi. She had spent the entire weekend at her sister's house and they had been together the whole time, cooking side by side. The police are trying to ask Stacy if she knows about Angel's relationship with a man. Stacy revealed that Angel had recently become interested in a young man named Mark Sotka, a 19-year-old who had just graduated with honors from their high school. Stacy explained that Angel had been in love with Mark for a long time and even hoped to start a serious relationship with him. However, Angel was very private, especially about her relationships, and only Stacy knew about Mark, not even sharing it with her mother. During the questioning, Stacy reveals that Angel was aware of her pregnancy shortly before she disappeared. They had talked several times about the possibility of telling Mark about the baby, and Angel was optimistic that he would accept her and the child, viewing it as the start of their life together. Stacy was doubtful, but Angel was convinced she could build a family with Mark. The detectives decided to investigate Mark's background before confronting him. It appeared that Mark was not ready for fatherhood. Just before Angel went missing, he started college, which suggests he may have only considered Angel a short fling while planning to focus on his studies. They found no incriminating evidence against him, as he had a clean record and a solid reputation in school. Eventually, Mark was called to the police station for questioning. He was surprised to learn that he was considered a suspect in Angel's disappearance. He denied any involvement and refuted Stacy's claims about their relationship. When he learned that Angel might be pregnant, he laughed it off, dismissing it as a fabrication by his girlfriend. He admitted to having had a brief encounter with Angel at the beginning of summer but said they had not met again since then. Additionally, he had been in a relationship with another girl for 2 years. To support his claims, he needed to provide proof and a reliable alibi. Mark testified that he left work at 5 p.m. on July 31, 1992 to go to a shopping mall. He intended to buy a gift for his girlfriend and then meet friends at a pizzeria. The police began to investigate his account closely. His employment at a car dealership was verified through his timesheet, which matched his claimed working hours. Additionally, they found a receipt for the gift purchase. Several friends from work supported his story, confirming he was at the pizzeria until around 9 p.m. The only inconsistency was that some staff members at the places he visited that evening did not remember him. However, Mark willingly took a polygraph test, which showed no evidence of his involvement in any crime. As a result, he was cleared as a suspect. The investigation hit another dead end, prompting detectives to revisit earlier theories of escape or kidnapping. Discovering that Angel might have been pregnant reinforced these theories. Her family may have opposed her having a child at just 17, leading her to potentially run away to start a new life with the baby. Unfortunately, these possibilities did not bring them any closer to finding her. Frustrated by the lack of progress, Angel's mother decided to take action. She reached out to the community through local media in hopes of gathering information. Her appeal successfully raised awareness about Angel's disappearance, turning the incident into a well-known topic of discussion. Friends and concerned individuals joined in, distributing thousands of leaflets. Charities became involved, and a fund was established, raising $10,000 as a reward for anyone who could provide useful information for the investigation. In the following weeks, the police department received numerous requests for information, which opened several new leads for the investigation. Detectives conducted thorough checks, but these efforts did not yield any significant results. Frustrated, Angel's family made the decision to hire a private detective. When Angel's father returned from a trip, he was hopeful that it would help locate his daughter, unlike the ineffective efforts of the police. However, despite the detectives' hard work, no new information emerged. 3 months passed, and there were still no updates on Angel's case. By this time, her friends had almost lost hope, but her mother remained determined. Angel's mother, Jackie, even altered the message on their answering machine, leaving a note for her daughter in the hopes that she would eventually call. She refused to believe that anything bad had happened to Angel. Meanwhile, the entire city was critical of the police for their lack of progress, which led to increased pressure on law enforcement to revisit existing leads and suspects. Eventually, detectives began to focus on a man who was engaged to Angel's best friend. He was very interested in finding out what happened to her and was vocal in his criticism of the investigation. His name was Candle. Even though he showed a strong interest in Angel, he did not give any information to the detectives or the media. It was believed that he had attempted to start a relationship with Angel and was rejected, which might have led to her kidnapping or murder. On the day she went missing, he was working at a shoe store in the shopping mall where she was last seen. He had a confirmed alibi for that time, but after work, he could have committed a crime, especially since he was nearby. He allowed investigators to search his car, but nothing suspicious was found. The investigation had reached another dead end. On December 15, 1992, 4.5 months after Angel's disappearance, a local resident was out hunting with his dog. While walking through the forest, the dog became uneasy and led its owner away. This took them to a drainage ditch, where the hunter noticed something wrapped in a sheet and tied with a rope. Upon closer inspection, he saw a human hand protruding from the package. The man quickly contacted the police. When law enforcement arrived, they discovered a body in an advanced state of decomposition. Identification was possible only through dental records, which confirmed that it was 17-year-old Angel Ormston, who had been reported missing. On December 16th, Angel's family was informed of her death. An autopsy showed she had suffered blunt force trauma to the head, which might not have been fatal. However, she had sustained 2 stab wounds to the chest, both delivered with significant force, impacting her heart. As a result, she bled out quickly and died. Investigating her death was complicated by decomposition, but fibers resembling those from a blue carpet were found at the scene. The police compiled a list of all homes associated with Angel, including those of neighbors, family, and friends, in search of a home that might have green carpeting. One key location of interest was the house belonging to Mark, who might have been the father of Angel's unborn child. At the time of the murder, the house was empty as it was for sale. Witnesses claimed they saw Mark enter the house with a girl who matched Angel's description. Although the house had been sold by then, the new owners allowed detectives to inspect it. Most rooms had been renovated, except for the basement. Upon entering the basement, the police found a blue carpet that matched the fibers collected from the scene. Additionally, a clothesline similar to the one used by the killer to move the body was discovered in the laundry room, matching the one found on Angel. The new owners reported that both the carpet and the clothesline had been left behind by the previous owners. These items were sent for forensic analysis, and tests confirmed that the microscopic fibers and the rope matched those used in the crime. Furthermore, a bloody fingerprint was discovered in the basement. 5 months after Angel disappeared, on December 31, 1992, 19-year-old Mark Sotka was arrested on suspicion of murder. During his arrest, he insisted that the police had no evidence against him and claimed he was not the person they were looking for. He immediately refused to cooperate with detectives, prompting forensic experts to conduct a detailed examination of his car. They discovered that although he had attempted to clean the interior, a few small drops of blood remained. During questioning, Mark eventually broke down due to the overwhelming evidence against him. He admitted to committing an act he described as stupid. When pressed for more details, he confessed to murdering Angel. Mark explains that he invited Angel to his house for intimate relations again, but things changed that night when she revealed that she was pregnant and that he was the father. This news triggered a violent outburst from him. He demanded that she get an abortion, but she refused. An argument ensued, during which Angel threatened to cause problems. In a fit of rage, Mark struck her several times in the face. Angel fell in the garage, and Mark, grabbing a knife, returned to the basement and stabbed her twice in the chest. Afterward, he calmly met with his friends at a pizzeria, chatting and laughing as if nothing had happened. Later that evening, he wrapped her body in a sheet, secured it with a clothesline, and transported it in the trunk of his car to a wooded area, where he left it in a ditch. Afterward, Mark returned home, covered up the evidence of the crime, and cleaned his car. After 5 months of investigation, he was arrested as the killer. During questioning, Mark confessed to first-degree murder and led authorities to the location where he disposed of the knife used in the crime. Despite thorough searches, the knife was never found. However, he had limited chances of proving his innocence. The motive for the attack stemmed from Angel's pregnancy, which disrupted his future plans. Mark had no intention of continuing his relationship with her and wanted to focus on someone else. In February 1993, to avoid the death penalty that was in place at the time, Mark officially admitted his guilt. Consequently, He was sentenced to life in prison but became eligible for parole after 30 years. Angel's family pointed out that Mark showed no remorse or compassion, which explained how he was able to deceive the polygraph test. Following his sentencing, he was taken to jail. After serving 20 years, Mark utilized an old Ohio law that allowed him to request a parole hearing after 2/3 of his minimum sentence. His family was informed, and Angel's relatives increased their efforts to prevent him from being released. Their efforts were successful, and he was denied parole in July 2023. After serving 30 years, Mark appeared before the parole board again, but this time, Angel's family opposed his release once again. As a result, he remains in prison. Angel's family expressed their relief to the media, calling it a significant victory for them. Her mother stated that their family would continue to fight to keep the killer incarcerated and would never forgive Mark, who has never expressed remorse or sought forgiveness for taking Angel's life and the life of her baby. The Jansen family appeared to be a loving and supportive unit, like many other families. However, one day, everything changed dramatically. An unexpected event occurred in their home. This incident triggered a chain of events that devastated the family and shocked those around them. Law enforcement, friends, neighbors all sought to understand how this seemingly perfect family could unravel what actually happened behind closed doors. In the dense forests of British Columbia, Randy Jansen led an ordinary life in a small town called Langley. Known for its brick storefronts and cozy coffee shops, Langley was viewed as a peaceful haven. Randy experienced years of hard work and unfulfilled dreams that often brought him unhappiness. From a young age, Randy had a strong bond with his father, who worked at a local lumber mill. His father taught him the skills of woodworking. After graduating high school, Randy followed in his father's footsteps by securing a job at the same mill. The job was tough, requiring long hours and significant physical effort, but Randy was used to hard work. In Langley, the lumber mill was seen as a vital part of the local economy and way of life. For more than 10 years, he committed himself to the challenging routine of processing wood and transporting logs. Although the work was repetitive and tiring, it provided him with stability. Each day might have seemed the same, but Randy found meaning in the rhythm of his work and his role in the community. The lumber mill represented stability in Randy's life, while music served as his escape, a way for him to express emotions he often found difficult to put into words. Since childhood, music had been important to him. Over time, playing guitar and singing shifted from being just a hobby to a crucial outlet for his feelings. Randy often performed at a local bar in Langley, where residents gathered to relax after their long workdays and enjoy live music. On stage, he transformed from his usually quiet self into an engaging and energetic performer, captivating his audience. The townspeople appreciated his heartfelt performances, which were filled with authenticity and passion. At a local bar one ordinary evening, Randy met Laurel, a woman who would profoundly impact his life. Laurel, 6 years older than Randy, worked as a bartender and often watched his performances from behind the bar. She was confident, charismatic, well loved by the patrons for her ability to create a welcoming atmosphere and her friendly demeanor. What began as casual chats about music and life quickly developed into a deeper bond. Their mutual love for music and shared aspirations brought them closer. Laurel played the piano and, although her life had taken a different path, she had always dreamed of pursuing a professional music career. This common dream, paired with genuine interest in each other, soon evolved into something much more significant. Life at the lumber mill went on as usual for Randy, but everything changed with Laurel's presence. Their relationship grew stronger as they started planning their future together. Although Langley felt familiar and comfortable, it began to seem too small for the aspirations they had. They dreamed of a life where music could be more than just a pastime. They wanted it to be the core of their future. Randy's days at the mill, his nights performing at the bar, and his evenings with Laurel filled him with a sense of purpose, love. He hoped for what lay ahead. Randy and Laurel frequently looked back on their wedding day in 1990. It was a modest ceremony with just their closest friends and family, creating a warm and intimate setting. The event featured live music, including a special song that Randy sang for Laurel, marking the start of their loving journey together. A few years later, their daughter Emily was born. She quickly became the center of their family. Randy often expressed how Emily was the best thing that ever happened to him. Anyone who knew them could see the deep love he had for her. Emily was only 8 years old when her life changed drastically. She started suffering from severe headaches that were so painful she could no longer participate in her music activities. From a young age, Emily had a natural talent for singing, which amazed her parents and earned her awards in competitions. She was living a lively life, taking vocal lessons and dreaming of becoming a singer. Her parents, encouraged by her success, did everything possible to support her dreams. Initially, Randy and Laurel struggled to understand their daughter's condition. They visited multiple doctors and underwent numerous medical tests, but none provided clear answers, leaving them confused. Emily had to leave school and start home-based learning because the bright lights and loud noises in classrooms worsened her severe headaches. Her room turned into a dim sanctuary where she spent most of her time. Randy and Laurel took turns caring for her, trying their best to alleviate her pain and offer comfort during her difficult times. After thorough medical evaluations, the doctors diagnosed Emily with migraines. This news deeply affected her entire family. The medications they prescribed provided only slight relief, easing her pain a little but never completely stopping the headaches. The music she previously cherished, which brought her so much happiness, was now unattainable. Once a vibrant and energetic young woman, Emily began to withdraw, spending most of her time in silence, darkness. Randy and Laurel were determined to find a solution for their daughter's condition. They explored numerous treatments, consulted many specialists, and looked into alternative therapies, but nothing provided the lasting relief they had been hoping for. The medical outlook was bleak. Migraines are often chronic, and many people suffer from them for life. Statistics revealed that around 53% of migraine sufferers cannot drive because of their symptoms, 30% find it difficult to finish their education, and 34% encounter issues in maintaining employment. Although these figures indicated that Emily's situation was relatively common, they offered little comfort to her parents, as they witnessed her once vibrant spirit fade. Randy went through a really tough time during these years. Music, which had once been his escape, now reminded him painfully that Emily could no longer share in the joy it brought her. Playing guitar in the evenings felt empty without her voice alongside him, and performing at the local bar, which used to be a source of joy for him, no longer felt fulfilling. He began to spend more time at home to support Emily as much as he could. However, as her condition worsened, both Randy and Laurel felt increasingly powerless. Their vibrant daughter, who was once full of life and determination, now isolated herself in her room, avoiding the world and its noise. Randy continued to work, but his thoughts were constantly with Emily. Each morning, he hoped to find a way to relieve her suffering. By the time Emily turned 18, her condition had worsened significantly. Her migraine episodes became more frequent and intense, sometimes lasting for several days. This constant pain made it difficult for her to study and maintain friendships. Despite these obstacles, Emily remained determined. She enrolled in the Fine Arts program at the University of British Columbia, aspiring to become an opera singer. For Emily, going to university was not just about academics. It was an opportunity to regain a sense of normalcy and pursue the life she had always dreamed of. Despite feeling physically exhausted and experiencing frequent pain, Emily committed herself to staying active. She took vocal lessons, learned music theory, studied art history and literature. She also participated in student events and concerts whenever possible. Her classmates admired her determination to engage in university life despite the challenges she faced. However, beneath this outward involvement, Emily was battling significant struggles. She frequently had to miss classes and catch up on her studies alone. The strong medications prescribed for her migraines left her feeling tired, drowsy, and weak. Her treatment plan included triptans, anticonvulsants, and antidepressants to help manage her symptoms. But these medications also had serious side effects, such as depression, difficulty concentrating, and a decline in her overall health. Over time, Emily chose to limit her medication intake as much as possible to lessen its effects on her body and began exploring alternative ways to manage her condition. Emily focused on meditation and breathing exercises, used cold compresses on her head, and stayed away from bright lights, strong smells, and loud noises. Her room became a safe space where she could escape anything that increased her pain. During her worst migraine episodes, she would sometimes stay in complete darkness for entire days, while her parents took turns caring for her and doing their best to alleviate her discomfort. Despite these challenges, Emily worked hard to maintain a sense of normal life. She kept in touch with her friends, even though she couldn't see them as frequently as before. Sometimes, she had to cancel plans at the last moment due to sudden migraine attacks. However, her friends remained supportive, visiting her at home and spending time with her to ensure she didn't feel alone. Despite her challenges, Emily remained committed to the things she loved. Her desire to return to music and live a fulfilling life never faltered, even as the journey became increasingly difficult. On May 7, 2015, Randy shocked everyone in his life with a Facebook post. He revealed some unimaginable actions he had taken in the prior 10 days. He started the post by expressing his love for his daughter, Emily, whom he described as an exceptional daughter, talented, intelligent, and kind. Emily brought immense joy to their family, filling their home with laughter and always willing to assist others, even while facing her own struggles. Unfortunately, her illness had robbed her of so much, forcing her to give up dreams she had worked tirelessly to achieve. Emily had been experiencing migraines since elementary school. The persistent pain caused her to fall into deep depression, making it common for her to endure days without relief. Randy observed how his daughter watched her classmates enjoy normal lives while she spent her time in hospitals or isolated in her dark, quiet room. Despite her efforts to hope for a brighter future, nothing seemed to alleviate her suffering. Randy worked at a lumber mill, but when he wasn't working, he dedicated all his time to Emily. He often told his friends that she was his whole world and that he couldn't bear the thought of life without her. Watching her in pain and feeling powerless to help was pushing him toward despair. Friends noted how Randy shared his struggles with them, making it evident how deeply he was affected emotionally. In this Facebook post, he confessed to taking a gun and ending Emily's life, explaining that he did it to free her from her constant pain. He described his vision of her as an angel soaring above the clouds, her long hair flowing in the wind, finally at peace. But he didn't stop there. Randy also revealed that he had taken the life of his wife, Laurel, because he couldn't bear the thought of her enduring the heartbreak of losing their daughter. A few days later, he also ended the life of his sister, Shelley, claiming he wanted to spare her from the shame of his actions. In the post, Randy shared Emily's journey in her battle against illness, highlighting her incredible strength and resilience. Unfortunately, despite her efforts, the illness had taken its toll. Randy expressed his helplessness as he watched her suffer daily, knowing he couldn't change her situation. He often told friends that he would do anything to support Emily, and ultimately, he felt this was the only way to help her. At the end of his Facebook post, Randy mentioned that his family was now in a better place, free from suffering. He expressed sorrow for his actions, took full responsibility, and apologized to anyone he had hurt. The post closed with the haunting phrase, "Rest in peace, my little family." After Randy's post went live, his friends and acquaintances immediately alerted the police out of concern for Randy's family. They were shocked by the content and wanted to ensure everyone's safety. Law enforcement acted quickly after receiving several calls. Officers were sent to Randy's home to look into the matter. One of Randy's closest friends, Brian Jones, was filled with fear and confusion as he read the Facebook post. Initially, he hoped it was just a mistake or a cruel joke. However, when he saw the signature, Daddy-O, Hugs and Kisses, a nickname Randy had used since school, Brian understood that Randy had truly written those words. This left Brian in shock and disbelief. He had always seen Randy as a kind and caring person, deeply devoted to his family. The thought that his friend could commit such an act or even possess a firearm was unfathomable to him. Brian remembered how lovingly Randy spoke of his family, making it difficult for him to grasp how things had taken such a tragic turn. The seriousness of the situation struck him immediately, and he knew he needed to respond quickly. He left work early and made his way to Shelley's house, trying to call Randy as he went. Each unanswered call only increased his worry. When Brian got to Shelley's house, he saw a pile of undelivered newspapers on the porch. This was unusual because Shelley was always dependable and took her responsibilities seriously. Her old van was in the driveway, the curtains were tightly shut. The yard was eerily silent, with no signs of life. Brian knocked on the door multiple times, but no one answered. The atmosphere felt unsettling and unnaturally quiet. Shelley had become a private person after her parents died. She lived by herself, had no children, and hardly spoke to her neighbors. Her primary job was delivering newspapers, and she was recognized for her reliability, punctuality. When Brian noticed the newspapers piled up without being picked up, he became worried and called the police. The dispatcher told him that he wasn't the only one worried about the family. A patrol unit was already on its way to investigate. When the police arrived, they tried to reach Randy Jansen, who was inside his house. They saw him through a second-floor window with a gun. The officers used loudspeakers and attempted to call him, but Randy did not reply. Understanding the seriousness of the situation, the officers proceeded cautiously to prevent further escalation. The house was surrounded, and negotiators began their work, but Randy did not show any intention to surrender or communicate. After several hours, the situation became much more critical. Randy set the house on fire, and officers saw smoke rising from the upper floor. They tried to get inside, but the flames spread too quickly, blocking access through the windows. Officers noticed a body wrapped in a sheet on the first floor, but they couldn't reach it to confirm its identity. Within minutes, the fire took over the entire house. When firefighters arrived, the house was fully engulfed in flames, and they could not save it. Investigators discovered 3 bodies in the charred remains of the house on Lanberis Road in Rosedale. 19-year-old Emily was found in her bedroom, wrapped in a sheet. 50-year-old Laurel was located in the kitchen, covered with a blanket. Both women had suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Randy's body was located in a second-floor bedroom. He had died by suicide using a firearm and setting the house ablaze. The positioning of his body and the presence of the weapon indicated that Randy was experiencing severe emotional distress when he made the choice to end his life. When police arrived at the home of Randy's sister in Langley, British Columbia, they found her body in the living room. She had been shot twice in the head and was covered with a blanket. No signs of a struggle, indicating that Randy had likely caught her by surprise. Over the past year, Emily's health had worsened significantly. Doctors had to give her morphine injections to manage her severe pain, and these were used as a last resort. Neighbors often witnessed her parents assisting her into their home after her hospital visits. Emily was so weak that she required help to walk, which was heartbreaking for everyone who knew the family. Randy Jansen, Emily's father, dedicated himself to caring for his family despite facing numerous challenges. A year prior to the tragic events, he sought assistance from their family doctor due to ongoing insomnia and intense stress. He shared his struggles with witnessing his daughter's pain. The doctor suggested using sedatives and advised Randy to focus on getting more rest, but Randy refused the medication, feeling it wouldn't truly solve his problems. Brian noted that Randy had never indicated any thoughts of self-harm or intentions to harm others. He described Randy as a calm and hardworking individual always willing to help. Randy consistently put his family first, so no one could have anticipated he was capable of such actions. Brian observed that Randy had reached his breaking point. He could no longer endure watching his daughter suffer, which led him to make a heartbreaking decision. Neighbors who had known Randy since he was a child found it hard to reconcile this event with the kind and gentle person they remembered. They noted that he had never shown any signs of aggression or cruelty. His actions appeared to stem from a sense of desperation and an inability to cope with the immense pain affecting his family. One neighbor recalled Randy saying that if his daughter were to die, he wouldn't have a reason to live. Emily's last tweet, posted just 4 days before the tragedy, stated, "I complain about the pain, but at least I'm here to feel it. I thank God for the chance to live." In Emily's Twitter account, she wrote, "For the first time in 2 years, I've gone 12 hours without pain. I'm so tired of hurting, but I need to keep going." Her resilience was clear, despite the immense challenges she faced. This message expressed her determination to cherish life despite the significant suffering she faced. Her social media posts often reflected her struggle to stay positive in the midst of her illness, highlighting her hope even when times were tough. Emily was remembered as a kind and caring young woman who made an effort to stay connected with her community. She loved music and sang at the local church whenever her health allowed. Many residents of Langley have fond memories of her performances, but as her health declined, she was able to attend church less often. Despite her challenges, she remained generous and thoughtful, baking with her mother, sharing treats with neighbors. On her good days, she also helped local children with their homework. Laurel, Emily's mother, did everything possible to support her daughter. In a Twitter post, she expressed her feelings, saying, "Emily is back in the hospital, praying to God they can help her. I feel so helpless." These words showed the deep pain and despair she experienced while watching her daughter suffer. Although Laurel was emotionally drained, she was determined not to give up and continuously sought ways to improve Emily's condition. Similarly, Shelley, Randy's sister, could not predict the tragedy that would occur. The family never imagined their lives would be changed in such a devastating manner. Over the past year, Randy often shared with friends the heavy burden and stress he felt due to Emily's illness. No one could have predicted that he would eventually become so emotionally fragile that he would consider harming his family. Randy struggled to manage the emotional strain. Despite their shared despair, the family attempted to support one another, but their situation continued to worsen, leading to an unforeseen and tragic outcome. With the details now revealed, it is obvious that feelings of despair, hidden challenges, and deep hopelessness led to an unexpected tragedy. The story of the Jansen family serves as a sobering reminder that even within seemingly stable homes, deep pain can linger just beneath the surface, occasionally breaking out in unpredictable ways. It was a quiet evening in Dallas when Amber Geiger, a seasoned police officer, entered the wrong apartment. What happened next would send shockwaves through the community and change the course of two families' lives forever. But was it truly a tragic mistake, or was something darker at play? As the courtroom drama unfolded, questions about race, power, and accountability took center stage. What happened that night? Botham Shem Jean was born on September 29, 1991, in Castries, the capital of the island nation of St. Lucia. His parents, Allison and Bertram Jean, were deeply religious, they members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Raised in such a faith-driven environment, Botham's upbringing instilled in him strong moral values, including honesty, tolerance, and a desire to help others. From a young age, Botham stood out among his peers. His parents raised him with a strong sense of responsibility, a focus on education. In school, he demonstrated exceptional abilities in mathematics and music. At a young age, Botham began singing in the church choir, where his deep and moving voice immediately caught attention. Music became an important part of his life, and the church was a place where he felt supported. After finishing school, Botham decided to continue his education in the United States. He chose to attend Harding University in Texas, where he pursued a degree in accounting. This decision marked an important milestone in his life. Moving to the U.S. opened up new opportunities for professional growth and personal connections. After graduation, Botham secured a job as an accountant in Dallas. His career quickly flourished, his colleagues highly valued his professionalism and work ethic. For Botham, working at PricewaterhouseCoopers wasn't just a career step, it was an opportunity to contribute to society and provide for his family. He supported his parents, helped the youth in his community in St. Lucia. He dreamed of advancing further in his career. His co-workers remembered him as someone who always brought positivity and inspiration to the team. But it wasn't just his professional life that mattered to Botham. He was actively involved in the life of his church in Dallas, where he was part of the music group and often spent time with friends from the community. He found joy in simple things like cooking dinners for his friends, organizing parties to maintain friendships, and support with others. His life was filled with plans for the future. Amber Geiger, on the other hand, came from a small town near Dallas. She was born on August 9, 1988, grew up in a family where discipline and hard work were strongly emphasized. From an early age, Amber dreamed of becoming a police officer. Her father worked in local law enforcement, and she knew she wanted to follow in his footsteps to help people, bring order to society. She pursued this dream after high school by enrolling in the police academy. She worked hard and demonstrated the discipline, focus needed for a career in law enforcement. After graduating from the academy, Amber began her career with the Dallas Police Department, where she eventually became an officer. Her colleagues described her as determined and hardworking, though she often expressed frustration with the emotional strain and high stress of her job. The life of a police officer is always filled with risk and stress. Amber was no exception. She often found herself in situations that required quick decisions, where her reaction had to be immediate. These working conditions took a toll on her emotional state. Over time, she became more withdrawn and cautious in her relationships with others, preferring to spend her free time alone to recharge. Amber Geiger was dedicated to her profession, but her life was full of contradictions. She tried to hide her vulnerabilities, but those who knew her well could see that she often felt lonely and sometimes even lost in the world. Despite her strong, determined character, her internal struggles and fatigue from the constant pressure made her life less stable. She would often return home late, exhausted and emotionally drained, which perhaps played a critical role in the tragic events that unfolded later. After moving to Dallas, Amber purchased an apartment in the South Side Flats complex near her job. She believed that living close to work would allow her to rest better and minimize commuting time. Although she intended for her life in Dallas to be a fresh start, it did not bring the peace she sought. Instead, work stress and emotional strain became overwhelming. It started to dominate her daily life. She frequently struggled to cope with her increasing fatigue. On September 6, 2018, Botham Jean began his day like any other. He woke up early, went to his office in downtown Dallas. It was another hectic day filled with meetings and preparing client reports. Botham was known for his dedication to his work. That day was no exception. His colleagues saw his positive attitude and the smile he spread to those around him. No one could have anticipated that this would be the last day of his life. After finishing work, Botham returned to his apartment in the South Side Flats complex in Dallas. For him, this apartment was a peaceful retreat where he could relax after a hectic day. That evening, he opted for a simple routine, cooking dinner, listening to his favorite music, and unwinding. Cooking was a beloved hobby of his, helped him manage the stress from work. On the other hand, Amber Geiger was just completing a 13-hour shift at the police station. That day had been particularly challenging, filled with calls, patrolling, and paperwork that left her completely exhausted. She felt an overwhelming fatigue that made every part of her body heavy. She just wanted to get home quickly and sleep. As soon as her shift ended, Amber rushed home, looking forward to collapsing into bed for some much-needed rest. Amber arrived at her apartment complex, where she lived on the 3rd floor. As she made her way to her apartment, she was distracted by messages on her phone, recalling her day. She accidentally took the elevator to the 4th floor instead of the 3rd. The apartment doors looked similar, and in her fatigue, she didn't realize she was at the wrong unit. She noticed that the door to Botham Jean's apartment was slightly open, which made her uneasy. Confused and tired, she feared that someone might have broken into her apartment. Amber took out her service weapon, focused only on the need to protect herself. Amber pushed the door open, stepped inside. Botham, who was in his apartment preparing dinner, heard the noise and turned to the door, feeling confused about what was occurring. Mistaking him for an intruder, Amber fired her gun twice without thinking. Botham collapsed to the floor. When Amber turned on the lights, she realized her mistake. She saw an unfamiliar man lying in a pool of blood, suddenly understood that she had entered the wrong apartment. Overcome by panic and horror, she rushed to Botham to try to help him. She called 911, urgently explaining the situation to the operator, desperately stating that she had entered the wrong apartment unit and had shot someone. Her voice shook with fear and regret as she begged Botham to hold on, repeatedly saying she hadn't intended for this to happen. While waiting for emergency services, Amber tried to stop the bleeding, but her attempts were unsuccessful. Neighbors, alarmed by the gunshots and cries, began to enter the hallway. Some called the police to report the gunfire coming from the apartment complex. When paramedics arrived, they worked to save Botham, but his injuries were too severe. He did not survive. That evening, a young man with a bright future had his life tragically cut short. After the shooting, Amber was arrested and placed in the patrol car of Dallas Police Sergeant Brianna Valentine. Sergeant Mike Mata, Valentine's superior and president of the Dallas Police Association, then approached her. He instructed Valentine to turn off the in-car camera, which recorded audio, so he could speak privately with Amber. Valentine complied with this request. During Amber's trial, Mata testified that it was standard procedure to turn off the camera to protect Amber's attorney-client privilege, as she intended to call her attorney. Amber's defense attorney supported Mata's claim, but prosecutors disagreed, arguing that turning off the camera was inappropriate and suggested that Amber received preferential treatment due to her status as a police officer. Valentine testified that she locked Amber in the patrol car to prevent her from being implicated. However, surveillance footage later showed Mata allowing Amber to exit the patrol car, conversing with her and permitting her to mingle with friends and other officers. At the time, Dallas police policy allowed officers to deactivate recording devices if they believed there would be no further evidence or law enforcement value. Botham's family and the community claimed that turning off the camera led to the loss of important evidence. Valentine stated she would not have turned off the camera had she realized Amber was off duty during the shooting. Mata denied any wrongdoing and expressed openness to an internal affairs investigation. In July 2020, prosecutors referred Mata to a grand jury for tampering with evidence, but the grand jury chose not to indict him. A spokesperson for the Dallas police stated that an internal affairs investigation into Mata's conduct would continue. As investigators collected evidence, the public started to engage in discussions about the incident. The case led to widespread outrage, particularly regarding racial issues and concerns about police misconduct. Botham Jean, being black, was viewed by many as another victim of unfair treatment and bias from law enforcement. This raised questions about whether Botham's race influenced Amber's mistaken belief that he was an intruder, which led her to shoot him without first assessing the situation. Botham's family was heartbroken by the tragedy. His mother, Allison Jean, was in St. Lucia when she received the news. It was a devastating moment for her. Her son, who had moved to the U.S. to create a better life, was killed in his own apartment. Allison started to seek justice for her son, urging both the public and authorities to conduct a thorough and fair investigation. She remembered Botham as a kind, responsible, dedicated person who never posed any threat to others. In the days after the incident, there was a surge of conflicting reports and rumors. The media provided extensive coverage. Public opinion was sharply divided. Some people felt that Amber Guyger had made a tragic error, while others believed her actions were influenced by bias and a poor assessment of the situation. This led to protests in Dallas and other cities, where demonstrators called for justice for Botham Jean and his family. Witnesses from the apartment complex reported hearing screams and gunshots. Some tried to understand what was happening, but no one anticipated such a tragic outcome. Investigators gathered evidence, reviewed surveillance footage, and analyzed witness statements to piece together the events of that day. They aimed to determine if this was truly a tragic mistake or if other factors played a role in the devastating result. After Amber's arrest, the case moved into a lengthy, complex phase of investigation and trial preparation. Amber was charged with manslaughter. Her attorneys argued that her actions were a tragic, unintentional mistake due to extreme exhaustion from a long shift. However, the prosecution asserted that Amber's behavior was unacceptable for a trained police officer who should carefully assess situations and avoid unnecessary use of force. Key evidence in the case included surveillance footage from the apartment complex where Botham Jean and Amber Guyger lived. The recordings showed Amber arriving at the building, mistakenly going to the wrong floor, and approaching Botham's apartment. Investigators highlighted that she did not pay enough attention to realize she was on the wrong floor. Additionally, phone records were significant. Just before the incident, Amber had been texting a colleague with whom she had a personal relationship. Prosecutors argued that these messages might have distracted her and led to her mistake in entering the wrong apartment. In contrast, the defense minimized the relevance of the texts, asserting that they were unrelated to the incident and could not have impacted her actions. Over several months, investigators collected evidence and interviewed witnesses. Neighbors in the apartment complex reported hearing shouting and gunshots. Some mentioned hearing voices before the shots were fired, indicating there might have been an argument between Amber and Botham. However, the witnesses had differing accounts, making it challenging to create a clear understanding of the events that took place. Forensic examinations were carried out simultaneously. Experts carefully studied the firearm involved in the shooting, the bullet's trajectory, and other physical evidence to establish the locations of Amber and Botham during the incident. A key point of debate was the position of Botham's body and the bullet's angle. The prosecution argued that the evidence indicated Botham was not a threat to Amber, whereas the defense maintained that she acted in self-defense. In September 2019, a widely publicized trial began, attracting significant attention from the public and media. The courtroom was filled with journalists, family members, and friends of Botham Jean, along with supporters of both the prosecution and defense. The case was expected to be complex, addressing issues of police responsibility, personal accountability, and racial justice. The trial commenced with opening statements from both sides. Prosecutors contended that Amber Geiger's actions were not merely a mistake, but rather a result of her negligence as a police officer. They stressed that any officer should be especially cautious when using a firearm, particularly in situations where there is no threat. Moreover, they highlighted that Botham was in his own home and did not pose any danger to Amber. The defense focused on the notion that Amber was extremely exhausted and confused, motivated by fear for her own safety. Her lawyers aimed to present her as someone who made a tragic error without any intention to harm. They also emphasized her clean record in law enforcement to gain sympathy from the jury. Over several weeks, various witnesses, experts, and family members of both the defendant and the victim shared their testimonies. A particularly emotional moment in the trial occurred when Botham's mother, Allison Jean, took the witness stand. She reminisced about her son's dreams and future aspirations, painting him as a kind, compassionate individual. Her heartfelt words resonated deeply with everyone in the courtroom, underlining the immense loss her family experienced. Botham's brother, Brant Jean, also testified, delivering a statement that became widely discussed. He publicly forgave Amber Geiger, even requested to hug her. This act elicited mixed reactions. While some viewed it as a remarkable display of kindness and forgiveness, others believed it should not overshadow the pursuit of justice. Among the evidence shown in court were surveillance video and an audio recording of Amber's 911 call made after the attack. In the recording, she sounds panicked, repeatedly saying she entered the wrong apartment and never meant to harm anyone. Expert witnesses analyzed the bullet's trajectory, the position of Botham Jean's body, and the events leading up to the shooting. Prosecution experts argued that the bullet's path indicated Botham was in a relaxed position, likely sitting or just getting up from his couch when he was shot. This contradicted the defense's claim that he was moving toward Amber and posed a threat. The defense tried to challenge these findings by saying that the bullet's trajectory could not be definitively established due to insufficient data. During the trial, the public paid close attention to the case's developments. Protests and rallies persisted, with activists demanding a fair sentence for Amber Geiger, advocating for police reform to prevent similar incidents in the future. There were widespread calls for improvements in police training, particularly in decision-making during high-pressure situations, and for greater accountability for errors that result in tragic consequences. Amber Geiger testified, sharing her perspective on the events from that night. She described returning home after a long shift, she feeling exhausted, confused. She claimed she truly thought she was in her own apartment, believed Botham was an intruder. While testifying, she became emotional and stated that she never meant to harm anyone and considered it a terrible mistake, one that she would have to live with forever. Her testimony was heartfelt and appeared genuine to some. The question of what the appropriate sentence should be became a key focus in the final stage of the trial. Prosecutors argued that Amber Geiger should be convicted of manslaughter, stating that her actions resulted in the death of an innocent person and that a police officer who cannot accurately assess a situation should not remain in the police force. In contrast, the defense sought a lighter sentence, emphasizing the absence of intent and claiming that Amber already felt immense guilt for her mistake. After several days of discussion, the jury was finally ready to deliver their verdict in Amber Guyger's case. The courtroom was filled with tension as everyone awaited the judge and jury's decision on whether the former police officer was guilty of causing Botham Jean's death. For many, this trial symbolized not just a personal tragedy but also significant issues in American society, such as racial bias, abuse of power, and a lack of accountability in law enforcement. On October 1, 2019, Amber Guyger was convicted of murder. The jury deliberated for 6 hours to return a murder verdict. The jury also considered the lesser charge of manslaughter. She is the first Dallas police officer to be convicted of murder since the 1973 killing of Santos Rodriguez. This decision surprised many, especially since the prosecution had originally aimed for a manslaughter conviction. The murder charge had more severe penalties and a longer prison sentence. In the courtroom, people expressed relief and held quiet celebrations. This verdict marked an important step toward justice for Botham's family and their supporters who endured the lengthy and difficult trial. On October 2, 2019, Amber Guyger was sentenced to 10 years in prison after a jury deliberated for an hour. In her remarks, the judge acknowledged the case's complexity and tragedy, noting that both sides had suffered significant losses. She pointed out that Guyger had made a serious mistake that resulted in an innocent person's death. Despite the weight of the sentence, many believed that 10 years was too lenient for such a grave error. While some accepted the court's decision, others felt it was inadequate. Activists and supporters of the Jean family argued that the sentence did not adequately reflect the seriousness of the crime and was insufficient punishment for the life lost. Protests continued in Dallas and other cities, with many calling for more reforms in the criminal justice and law enforcement systems. This case became a symbol of the fight for justice and highlighted the ongoing challenges Black Americans face with law enforcement. Amber Guyger was in a state of shock after the verdict and sentencing. She repeatedly insisted that she did not intend to harm anyone and that it was a tragic mistake. Her attorneys filed an appeal to reduce her sentence, arguing that 10 years was too severe for someone who acted out of confusion, stress, and exhaustion. Nevertheless, once the trial ended, Guyger was taken into custody to begin serving her sentence. Botham Jean's family expressed their gratitude to everyone who supported them during the lengthy trial. His mother, Allison, mentioned that while the verdict brought some sense of closure, it could never bring her son back. She stressed the need for systemic reforms in the justice system and law enforcement to prevent similar tragedies in the future. She continued to advocate for changes within police departments, hoping that her son's case would inspire meaningful progress. On October 16, 2019, Amber's attorneys filed an appeal requesting a new trial. On August 7, 2020, they filed another appeal, alleging that there was insufficient evidence to convict her of murder. This appeal sought to have the conviction either overturned or reduced to negligent manslaughter, accompanied by a new hearing for sentencing on the lesser charge. On January 13, 2021, the Dallas City Council voted unanimously to rename approximately 4 miles of South Lamar Street from Interstate 30 to the South Central Expressway as Botham Jean Boulevard. This street passes by Jean's former apartment building and the Dallas Police Headquarters. On August 5, 2021, the Fifth Court of Appeals of Texas upheld Amber Guyger's murder conviction, unanimously concluding that the jury's verdict was reasonable and that Amber's own testimony supported the murder conviction. On November 17 of that year, the court withdrew its earlier opinion but again upheld her murder conviction on similar grounds, stating that her defense, which claimed she had accidentally entered the wrong apartment, did not justify the lesser charge of negligent manslaughter. Her appeal to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, the highest court for criminal cases in the state, was denied. Simultaneously, in response to the police car camera controversy, Texas State Representative Carl Sherman sponsored Texas House Bill 929, known as the Botham Jean Act, to increase police accountability. The bill prohibits police from disabling body-worn cameras at any time while they are actively engaged in an investigation. It also requires law enforcement policies regarding body-worn cameras to include provisions for collecting cameras, video, and audio recordings as evidence. The bill goes into effect in September 2021. Amber is currently being held at the Patrick O'Daniel Unit, formerly the Mountain View Unit. She is eligible for release in September 2024 after serving half of her sentence, although her full sentence is effective until September 2029. Amber was subsequently denied parole in October 2024. She will be eligible for release again in 2026. On November 20, 2024, a civil trial jury awarded the Jean family $98.65 million, including approximately $60 million in punitive damages and $38.6 million in compensatory damages, in a wrongful death claim against Amber Guyger, a figure nearly double the amount the family had sought. The family said Dallas police had inadequately trained Amber and also named the city of Dallas as a defendant, but the city was dismissed from the lawsuit, leaving Amber fully liable for the damages. Amber initially represented herself but did not appear in court and declined to provide legal representation. The family said they would donate any compensation they received to the Botham Jean Foundation, which could include proceeds from any film or book deals Amber made. The family acknowledged they were unlikely to receive the full amount. The case of Botham Jean significantly influenced public perception and sparked a national debate about policing. It exemplified the systemic issues present in law enforcement, particularly regarding the treatment of Black individuals. In response to widespread public outcry, many states began to consider new laws aimed at improving police training, especially in how officers handle force and interact with the community. There were increasing demands for greater accountability for police officers and for mandatory training that emphasizes racial and cultural understanding. Furthermore, Botham Jean's case led to the formation of organizations and funds dedicated to assisting the families of victims of police misconduct, advocating for reforms in law enforcement. These groups not only provided legal and emotional support but also launched campaigns to raise awareness about racial discrimination and the misuse of power. Allison actively engaged in these initiatives, sharing her personal story to advocate for justice and systemic change. Meanwhile, Amber Guyger remained in prison, waiting for the results of her appeal. This case devastated two families and had a significant impact on American society. The tragic error that caused Botham Jean's death highlighted the urgent need for reform and emphasized the critical importance of law enforcement officials making careful, responsible decisions in life and death scenarios. The case of Botham Jean and Amber Guyger is one of the most talked about and significant cases in recent U.S. history. It highlights the serious consequences of poor judgment, especially from those in positions of authority. Many believe that justice was only partially served. The case raised important questions about equality and accountability in America.